need to have trust in our government agencies, and that includes transparency and accountability at the Fed. So when we're talking about billions of dollars being spent on renovations, it's absolutely appropriate for Congress to ask questions. And it is absolutely appropriate for Congress to get answers. We need to understand where this substantial amount of money has gone, and we need to ensure that every institution, including the Fed, is always making decisions that are in the best interest of the American people. And so I urge everyone involved to make sure that any outstanding questions on this matter come to fruition so that we can get answers and move on and have a smooth and timely transition and confirmation process, of which I want to say congratulations on both your nomination, your willingness to be here today, and I also want to say that to your family. I think a lot of people miss the fact that when any of us step up to serve, that it's not just you, your family that goes through so much. And so we just want to say that sacrifice is often overlooked, and we certainly appreciate your family being with you today and all of you and what you're willing to do here. I had a chance to get to know you over the years, and as many of my Republican colleagues have and other colleagues, and I think we would all say you are absolutely the right man for the job at the right time in our country's history, and I am excited about your leadership at the Fed. We have had an opportunity to talk about a number of issues, but I know that your integrity and that your commitment to the American people are going to help restore confidence at the Fed, and it will also ultimately serve our country incredibly well. So it's not going to be any easy task to return that confidence. We've spoken about needed reforms at the Fed on the monetary policy side and also the operational and internal standpoint as well. And of course, your calls for reform aren't baseless. You served at the Fed during one of the most challenging times. You just referenced it in your previous answer to a question from my colleague across the aisle. I believe you said there was a balance sheet, $800 billion, when you showed up in 2006. So talk to me a little bit, speak to me about that, about what you have seen during your time and tenure at the Fed already, and then what other life experiences you have that you will bring as you tackle this role.
Yeah, so Senator, great to see you again. So the chairman knows I worked with the senator when she was a staffer on this very committee, and I was a young staffer myself. So it's an honor to be here. And Senator, as you know, this is a serious responsibility. I'm honored the president nominated me for it. This is a time of consequence, not just for the country, but for the central bank. I think the central bank can go back to first principles and improve itself. I see most of the actions of the Fed come from good intentions, but when you gave the Fed a remit, it wasn't a general roving remit to do what it thought was right. It was a particular remit to focus on particular issues and to not wander. And that's the trade-off on independence. Independence about the conduct of monetary policy, where we can hear criticisms from others in the economics profession, elected officials, and we should be open-minded to them. Listen, I think there's been a considerable amount of groupthink in the economics profession, and so being open-minded to it is important. But outside of monetary policy, it's important that the central bank work with the government on areas of overlap. And so I think that's likely to happen going forward. If you ask Senator Britt about my biggest lessons are about how a central bank should be acting in crisis times versus in normal times. In the crisis of 2008 and the pandemic of the crisis of 2020, that's when the Fed needs to take extraordinary measures. Going back to the founding of the Fed in 1913, it was created to respond to shocks. And so there, I think central bankers often should get the benefit of the doubt. When the world is racing away from it, the real economy is suffering fast, the central bank should show up with liquidity support. But the job of the central bank is to try to mitigate those risks in advance, to buy insurance so that we don't go from shock to shock, from boom to bust. And so my criticism is more about the conduct of monetary policy and regulatory policy in normal times. And that's the area that are in need of reform. We have a window where the economy is improving, but I would say more improvement is still possible. And it's during this policy that we need to look introspectively, look fundamentally at reform So when there is another risk, there is another shock, the central bank is prepared to address it with less harm to the real economy.
Thank you so much. I am out of time. I look forward to your service to our nation, and I know that we will be in great hands.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Britt. Senator Kim.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Warsh, good to see you. I guess I just wanted to start off by talking about just the state of American families right now. Nearly 60% of people surveyed say that they're worried about affording the very basics: rent, gas, groceries, the bills. 60% of Americans say that they cannot handle a $1,000 emergency. 40% of Americans saying that they can't handle a $400